Greetings, wisdom keepers, wisdom seekers. Welcome back to Wisdom Drops, your source for daily drops of wisdom and savvy cat astrology. Tanya Lasagna back again, layering together all the nodal noodles and celestial sauce into something digestible. And today we are discussing it. It's the full moon in Scorpio eclipse. Bum, bum, bum. I know I've been gone for a while, y'all, but this one got me out because look at this. My gosh, this is an intense eclipse. Oh, wow. Are you ready? Buckle in tight, buddy, because we have the full moon aspect of this eclipse. It's not a new moon eclipse like we just had. It's a full moon, so you know stuff's about to pop. Another reason, it's in Scorpio, the most intense, drama-filled sign of the entire zodiac, okay? And, on top of it, we have so much planetary energy popping off right now that things are, I mean, it's just going to be intense, period. I mean, this is really, when you look at the chart, we have Saturn over here in Pisces and Pluto taking its position still in the sign of Aquarius at 0 degrees, right? Still at that anaretic degree as a very slow moving planet. But that's new news, y'all. That's not old news. That's still new news, relatively speaking. So, Pluto being the modern ruler of Scorpio, that is going to be an indicator for how this energy is about to flow. Not to mention Mars, the original OG ruler of Scorpio, over here just hanging out at 21 degrees, the upper left there in Cancer, another water sign. So things are just going to be very emotional all the way around, I would say, and very intense. Okay. So before I do jump into it even more, go ahead and subscribe if you're not already and smash the like button. And if you are new and are subscribing, welcome, welcome. Great to have you here joining us online. The thing I want to remind you about though is to push that bell notification so that you do get notified when I post new content. And of course, if you want to book a session with me where I will give you my undivided attention at your personal birth chart and answering your personal questions about your life path, experience, etc., you can go on over to wisdomdropsastrology.com. Wisdom and drops have Z's in them. The link is down below and go ahead and book there. Moving forward. So, after you done all that, back to this, the eclipse business. What is up? Well, Scorpio eclipse, it's a full moon in Scorpio. Let's start with that. So, in eclipse stuff is always faded, right? Because it is like the nodes of the moon, the nodes of karma or fate or whatever. So, you know that like when you have a full moon on the south node, it's going to relate a lot to like excretion, especially in the sign of Scorpio, which rules the bowels and digestion and literally the notion of poop, right? Like this idea of like what is no longer needed. It's poison, right? In astrology, you could like substitute the word poison for Scorpio, and it's not always a bad thing either, because Scorpio could also be substituted with the word transformation or the word um reincarnation or the word, anything that is like about regeneration. I always think of the phoenix when I think of Scorpio because it's so powerful. And if you haven't seen my stuff on Scorpio already, where you been? Because that's what everybody loves about my channel, evidently. Go on ahead and check that out. I have like so much Scorpio content and it's all related to now. So, think about these themes too if you haven't already. Like, where in your life do you need to like let go? Where in your life is no longer good for you and you know it, and it's just damn well time to get rid of that, you know? That's like a deep question to ask yourself. If you're able to get rid of it, get rid of it. Whatever actions you need to take to excrete that poo out of your system, metaphorically or practically literally in this case, with that south node there, because the south node is like the tail end of the dragon, right? It always is where we release, and I've done videos on that. Rahu and K2, you can totally search for that on YouTube, Wisdom Drops Astrology, and it will come up. But, the point being here, it's time to excrete, let go, renew, refresh, transform, and like redefine. This is a redefining moment, okay? And now I want to go into the leader planets here, the patron gods of the sign Scorpio, which include Mars at 21 degrees of Cancer in the upper left there. So, Friday, May 5th, 1:34 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that is going to be when the sky is perfecting. And Mars in Cancer is a very, you wouldn't think because it's a water sign, but it's a very fiery energy because Cancer is an emotionally charged water sign. Cancer is literally like they'll be the first to cry, they'll be the first to like defend somebody they love just as much, because everything is so emotional with them. And it's like, oh, you didn't just step up in my waters with that BS. And like, sometimes Mars and Cancer people can actually be the best protectors, the best defenders, because they have that emotional like skin in the game, right? And so when you have Mars there by transit, and Mars is our own personal like warrior energy, or our own chi, our own like, force that we have to work with, and it's in this emotionally charged Cancerian energy, we're all going to be feeling much more like probably trigger happy, is kind of how I want to put it. But if we're balanced beings, we're going to be able to kind of like hopefully, we'll be able to kind of direct that energy towards something more healing in nature, because Cancer Mars is also really good about taking care of themselves. And that's a big theme, I think, of this eclipse, is the need to tend to one's emotional well-being. Literally, repeat that: emotional well-being. If at all possible, to tend to your emotional well-being, however you can do that, in whichever ways you do have available to you, please choose to do that at this time, because Mars and Cancer, we've been experiencing that energy, right? But this is Mars and Cancer during a water moon eclipse, which we have not been experiencing until now, right? So be sure to definitely take that into account right now. You need to like support your own emotional well-being. And by, degree based aspect, we do have a less than 10-degree opposition between Mars and Cancer. And just as a reminder, because it's the patron god, the ruling planet of Scorpio, Mars is going to flavor that Scorpio moon's experience all the more, because the moon is in Scorpio's sign and Mars is Scorpio's ruling planet. So whatever Mars is doing, it's flavoring up, it's sauteing up that moon energy in its own particular flavor. And this flavor, my friends, is Mars in Cancer. Now, the fact that it's in a less than 10-degree opposition with Pluto, it's not the most intense degree based relationship, right? It's not a 3-degree or less experience that we're looking at, but we do see a less than 10-degree aspect, which can't be, ignored, especially when the aspect of this opposition is taking place between the two ruling planets of Scorpio. That is literally like one of those moments where you're like, haha, the heavens is like being funny or whatever, because it's like, wow, like what are the odds, that at the time of the Scorpio full moon, you're going to have Scorpio's two rulers in opposition. What are the odds, right? And so, anyway, we have them in opposition. And what does it mean? What does it mean? That's what you want to know. What does it mean? What do you think it means? And I say that because it's an inherently like a relationship oriented degree, right? 180 degrees, this opposition. If you know anything about houses in astrology, you know that there's such a thing as the first and seventh house, right? And any house pair, that when you draw a straight line across, from one house to another, is going to indicate that partnership energy. It's going to carry that first to seventh house metaphor throughout its relation with each other. Each house, when they're in opposition, or in this case, in opposition between two planets, they're in a yin yang sort of configuration. They're in a mirroring sort of, position. They're showing each other the opposite of what the other is. It's very complementary. And at the same time that it's complementary, when we're discussing the two planets of Mars and Pluto in particular, the ruling planets of like this intense badass sign of Scorpio, it's more likely to not just be complementary, but controversial, or even like fighting, like aggressive type energy, right? So you might have a strong disagreement right now things might totally pop off and like turn in a different direction than you thought, which relates us back up here to something I want to discuss, the fact that Uranus, speaking of things popping off, is conjunct the sun still at this time. And the sun, and when I say still, I mean like the sun is catching up to Uranus and it's a 4-degree orb of difference. But Uranus conjunct the sun is literally like the astrological like planetary insignia of surprise and like things just totally popping off like a god blessed lightning bolt, a charge of electricity. Don't get electrocuted under this eclipse, y'all. Don't like drop your whatever electrical thing in the like the bathtub, like for real, like I'm not joking, like that's not funny because it could happen, and like it could happen now, like just be really careful about stuff like that. I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm just saying like use good common sense around electricity and water because Uranus is electricity. It's conjunct the sun, which is always like the day-to-day mundane events of things, and it's in opposition to a Scorpio moon, and that's a water sign, and Scorpio rules death. So, I mean, you can interpret this like in 500 different ways, right? But that's just one that like kind of immediately like rudimentarily comes into mind. Now, another thing to think about is because of all this surprise energy and this like tension between Mars and Pluto in their opposition stance, you and the fact that Saturn is also in a water sign is really standing out to me as well. Because we just had like 6 years. Like, what? We just had like, well, not 6 years, but 5 years, of this Saturn being in its own signs of Capricorn and Aquarius. And that was very like dry and you know um Saturn was in its own element there, right? It was very dry and very, it could be kind of like callous, and it was about like hardening up and redefining the practicalities of life, and like it came with some hard losses and some tough experiences and dharma, karma, whatever you want to call it. And you really had to kind of buckle in and do the work and get serious, and life probably handed you a couple serious challenges in that amount of time that had to be handled. But now that Saturn is in Pisces, it's like a whole new vibe, and it's wet and it's huge and it's deep and it's the ocean, and it's like, what? This is different, this is new, you know and so it's emotional because Pisces is this ocean of emotion, and it's like Saturn is like the structure planet, right? So your structure right now as a whole, all of us, is in this watery kind of terrain that doesn't really make sense for structure. But in one way it does, because when you're going into the sea, you need a good boat, right? And Saturn could be that boat right now. Yo, that's deep. I like it. But for real, like think about it, because Saturn's things that are hard, it literally is wood, right? And the fact it just got like forged through Capricorn and Aquarius, its own signs, and turned into like a theoretical bobbing device to like carry you through the waters of Pisces the next couple of years. I mean, that could be how your Saturn is standing up to the waters of Pisces, to this ocean of emotion. And at the same time, we have that by degree, not sign based, but degree based relationship. Saturn's in a sextile to Venus in very late Gemini. And so if you have any personal planets in very late Gemini, good for you. Venus is like loving you right now. Definitely, it could be bringing you a lot of gifts there, and even friendship, as well as like if you had a Mars in late degree Gemini, it might be bringing you some fantastic, more like sexual relationships or things like that. But anyway, pleasure, right? So this is going to be a very interesting time, and the fact that Mercury's over here with the sun, it's not atypical. Mercury never is more than one sign away from the sun, right? But Mercury is there, and Mercury is conjunct, much more like, oh yeah, that's not so common, right? All the time. And Mercury is conjunct the North Node. And so that is a key indicator. And the reason it's an eclipse, right? Why is it an eclipse? Because it's a full or a new moon, in this case, a full moon, conjunct or in the same sign as the nodes of the moon. And that's why we're even talking about it being an eclipse in the first place. And so you have the North Node over here at 4 degrees of Taurus conjunct Mercury at 8 degrees. That's a 4-degree orb range of difference. And that's like not insignificant, right? Because 4 degrees of difference is going to show up. And what is it going to show up as? It's going to show up as messages, words, messages, things that people say. They're all going to be very, very, very telling for you right now, and probably of a sort of like, I'm seeing it as like the catalyst between whatever this Mars opposite Pluto is. And another thing that Mars opposite Pluto could be like getting to the true, authentic, raw truth. Like, this is an X-ray kind of energy. The sky is like very like X-ray right now. Like, Scorpio is super sees through it all, in its best function. And we all function at different like levels and at different times throughout our day or even our lives, obviously, but basically, like, Scorpio is going to be seeing it like it is, and you're going to be feeling like you're the Scorpio, whether or not you are right now. So you're going to be seeing it like it is. You're going to be feeling it deep, deep, passionate emotions, passion, just passion on passion. Passion had babies. They grew up and mated with other passions, and now it's just like a passion fiesta up in here on Cinco de Mayo. But but for real, it's going to be a really passionate time. And if you are going out for Cinco de Mayo, please do be careful. If you're going out at all this weekend, just be careful. I don't like scaring people. I just like being authentic with you. Like, this is like, oh my God, somebody could have literally just died outside from some unknown event or whatever, or something happened, like explosives, even like with a God forbid, like a gun or whatever. And I don't wish that. Like, let's not channel that. Let's make like a good vibe for ourselves in our local spaces this weekend. But I'm just saying, like, real talk, like, shit's gonna pop off, y'all. I'm not trying to like instigate anything. I'm just telling it like it is in the heavens right now. So, protect yourself and be authentic with those around you. If you want to deepen your relationships to the next level with people around you, it's definitely a good time to be authentic with them. And don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Be bold by being vulnerable with them, and see what happens, from there. And definitely just like take care of yourself. Like, TLC is all over this too. Like, there's a lot of energy though, so I'm not saying TLC is going to be like, yeah, sit back and watch TV and eat popcorn, do nothing. I'm saying like TLC is going to be more physical, because you have so much like Mars opposite Pluto. That's a serious, like, it's like a sexual energy, and all energy could be considered like primal in its own right, right? But like, there's a primal energy here. Like, there is a need to use your energy. So make sure you're kind of like putting your energy into things that are more physical if you can, like going on runs or whatever that means to you. Maybe you're actually going out on the water, like boating or whatever, like in a kayak or whatever you're doing. But point is, get physical with it, let it out. If you feel the need to cry, definitely it's a good time to process your emotions. It's a great time to spend time with water. Take the baths, take the long showers now, go out to the water's edge, wherever that is for you, and literally just vibe there. That's going to be a great thing for you. Let your words definitely show what you mean. Don't hide your words right now, but don't like cut people with your words either, because it's getting to be a 10-degree range between Mars and Uranus. And that could be very cutting with your words and saying things out of nowhere. And in Taurus, Taurus is slow to get pissed, but once it's pissed, watch out, because it's a steamroller, and it's like, it can be very intense. So definitely just I would say, like, let's try to channel our truth. The higher octave of Uranus is like radical truth with our words, and be gentle and loving about how those are delivered, because Taurus's ruling planet is Venus, and Venus is over here, in Gemini, in mutual reception, because Venus and Mercury are in each other's signs, right? So there is something to be said about this task right now, to carry your words with beauty and grace, and also truth at the same time. That's your challenge. Whoever you are listening to this, that's your challenge right now, is to carry your words with both truth and grace. Because truth is Uranus and grace is Venus in mutual reception here in the late Gemini. So the North Node is like, you're going to help seal your fate or bring in whatever destined thing you're kind of attracting to yourself or putting out there in the world now by these words. So words are important. Watch your words and try to use them honestly and with kindness. And that's really what you're going to get how you're going to get the most out of this full moon. I have spent quite enough time on this. Please do like this video if you have not already. It helps the channel grow. Subscribe, share with a friend, etc., etc. And check out my website. Go to wisdomdropsastrology.com. If you want to book a reading there, you certainly can. I'd love to look at your chart. And with that said, through next time, until next time, may the stars be with you. Peace.